Yo, what's poppin' everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Zach Lesage here. We're going to be going over another week of top 10 decks in the Obsidian Flames format. We've now had a handful of league challenges, league cups, online events under our belts, and we know what a lot of the top decks are kind of shaping up to be. There's been some movement on this list, there's at least one new deck on this list, and there's a lot of cool things going on. If you want to copy and paste any of the decks into PTCG Live, in the description or the pinned comments, there's going to be copies of all the deck lists. You can copy and paste them right away. If you're trying to get any of these cards in real life, be able to go to our sponsors at deckoutgaming.ca or Atlas Collectibles, and being able to use our affiliate discount code. So check out the description for those links and discount codes. If you want to pick them up online, go to ptcglstore.com and use the TSS5 discount there. If you haven't already, give this video a like, share, subscribe, let us know in the comments what you're looking for. And again, check out those lists in the description or the pinned comment. That being said, we're going to jump into our number 10 deck. Let's get it. Be sure to check out all of the sponsors of the Shuffle Squad, whether you're looking for graded cards, you're looking for singles, sealed. We have all affiliate codes with all of our great sponsors, so be sure to check them out in the description below. Thank you so much for supporting us. Kicking off our list at number 10 is Lazard. I do have to give a shout out to Tyler Annert and Mark Dizon in the GTA for really showing this concept, making top cut at the Red Riot Games League Cup. So I saw that, played it the next day. I didn't do well, but my wife, Michelle Lesage, was able to make top 4. What does this deck do? Well, you could play it like a Lost Zone box deck, or you could use all those Chorus and Comfey to get that Infernal Rain going off really quickly, so you could attack with Burning Darkness in the mid to late game. After drawing a couple prize cards with Charizard, you might be able to finish the game off with Charizard or with Sableye. Interesting deck. It's kind of like Diet Lost Tina. So it might be a little bit low on this list. Maybe it shouldn't even be on this list. But usually I put new entries towards the bottom of the list just because we don't know how they necessarily fit. This is definitely a deck that can definitely go up a few spots or down a few spots depending on how the metagame turns out. It does have a pretty good Mew matchup. So that is a good thing to boast about. However, I do think it has a little bit of a shaky Lost Zone box matchup, but we'll have to see how the rest of the metagame plays out as we get closer to major events in the Obsidian Flames formats. Let's see what we got going on for number 9. At number 9, we have Lugia V-Star in the Single Strike package. I think this list is probably the same list that I had last week. The Cobalion does help out a lot against Charizard, even though Charizard is relatively low on this list. It is one of those things where you want to have answers to it, and if we just don't have a way to knock things out, we definitely want to have a way to knock things out with Tyranitar. So in this case, Cobalion's pretty cool. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard list. Lugia does pretty well in this format, depending on what you're hitting. However, if you hit some of the decks towards the top, it might be a tough one. So Lugia falls a little bit too far middle down the road. However, most decks in this top 10 are just more than acceptable to play, so don't think that because this deck is number 9, that it's a bad pick or anything for any upcoming events. I think Lugia is actually a really good choice. It's more of a metagame call. And again, if the Cobalion's not working in your format because there's not a lot of Charizard, maybe you cut it for something else. Other than that, it's a pretty stock Lugia list. I have heard some rumblings of Lugia colorless being better than Lugia Single Strike. I'm going to do my own findings, so stay tuned. Maybe we'll have an update on that for next week. Zapping its way into the 8th place spot is Miraidon EX with the Flaffy package. Now, Miraidon EX, running with Andrew Mahone's list from Worlds, I think this is either the exact same 60 or off by a couple cards. I actually ended up cutting the Miraidon EX from Obsidian Flames. You know, the one that we all have in our bulk EX stack? Yeah, that one. I cut that from this list because it was a free retreater. I put back Zorora because Zorora has some fringe uses against Gardevoir, and Gardevoir is a pretty good deck, right? This deck's just trying to accelerate a bunch of energies onto Pokemon attacking big, whether it's with Raichu, Raikou, or Miraidon. I think that it's just a general, like, beat-em-up deck with Path to the Peak, so it seems pretty decently well positioned. So if you're looking for a deck for a relatively newer player, a little bit easier to play, or you just want to beat up your opponents pretty quick, this would be the deck for you. I'm a huge fan of just playing decks like this, even if it's not the best position deck or the best deck on this list. I do have a soft spot in my heart for this deck. Another newcomer-ish deck to this list, not newcomer, is Palkia V-Star Chen Pao replacing Chen Pao Bax. I think that this deck is a little bit more well positioned in the metagame because of having Cancel Clone, Lost City, with a lot of Lost Zone box decks seeing success. I think that this is the type of deck that I'm just excited to play decks like this. I think it's, again, beat 'em up, Lost Zone your opponent's stuff, really just like attack big with Chen Pao. There's nothing wrong with this deck. So I definitely give this deck a whirl if you're looking to play something cool. Again, nothing wrong at all. I think this is really the list. Maybe you could cut the Canceling Clone for an Articuno, depending on how the metagame goes. But right now, I think Palkia Chen Pao is a solid deck. Probably better than Bax. However, if you're looking for a Bax list, I already posted one on the channel. That list is pretty solid. I have no complaints with that. And also the list that I posted in the top 10 best decks last week. Again, you don't want to make your deck weak to Path to the Peak right now, because a lot of the top decks are running Path to the Peak. This one obviously still has abilities, but we have all those Lost Cities, and we're not necessarily as ability reliant as a deck that plays Pidgeot. So this one, again, coming in at number 7, super solid deck. Falling down a little bit on the list is Arceus. And in this case, we've actually added in a grass-type attacker. At one point, I had Superior V-Star into this deck. I've gone with Leafeon V-Star in this deck. And one of the reasons why is because we can actually use the Leafeon V-Star ability to gust something up into the active spots, or we could use the Leafeon V ability to accelerate an extra energy if we miss one naturally. This deck has a decent bit of answers towards the metagame. I mean, Tina's good, Path, Judge is good, Arceus is good, Leafeon's good against Charizard, the Barrel's not weak against Path. So this to me just seems like the ideal list. If there's no Charizard, cut the Leafeon line for an extra boss, and maybe a Jet Energy. Beyond that, I think that you want to probably leave this deck as is. This one just seems like stock list perfect. So definitely give it a whirl of just accelerating energies onto either your Tina or an Arceus or a Leafeon, depending on the matchup that you're playing. But this deck is really cool. Here we go at number 5. We got Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX with Inteleon VMAX. So Rapid Strike box, deck that Cyrus Davis, also on Shovel Squad, one NAIC with. And the deck got a slight upgrade. We can play a Letter of Encouragement in order, I think it's encouragement. I actually don't know what the last word is, and it's too small for me to read, and it's one of those things where it's a brand new card, so I'm probably just going to butcher it. Someone let me know what it is in the comments if you're watching this. This is the bonus points section to see if you're actually paying attention to your boy Zach. Basically, if we had knocked out, one of our Pokemon gets knocked out, we could search our deck for 3 energies and just load up energies into our hand using Inteleon VMAX, rip in a bunch, and maybe using Yoga Loop that turn. So there's some cool things there. Otherwise, it's pretty stock list for this deck right now. And it's just well positioned because there's a lot of Pokemon that have 60, 70 HP that you could like easily manipulate. The Radiant Alakazam, Yoga Loop, Inteleon VMAX, Quick Shootings. So that's really where I think that this deck is quite good. But we'll have to see how it plays out going forward. There's a lot of Mew in this format, so I'd just be a little bit worried about that. Maybe go with Alex, is build top 16 at Worlds with the Giacomo and the Spiritomb if you really need to worry about any of that. So stay tuned. We'll see how Rapid Strike evolves going into Pittsburgh. Hopping into our number 4 choice is Mew VMAX with Fusion Strike. We basically took the build that Vance Kelly won Worlds with and didn't change too much. I didn't like the Crystal Cave in that list, so I went with another Lost City. Previously, I had Town Store in this deck, and I used that as a way to cut Forest Sealstone. However, if we're not grabbing Sky Sealstone, we don't want to give our opponent access to Forest Sealstone, or any of their other good tools. So in this case, we'd rather harm our opponents, sorry not sorry, and go with Lost City, which I think is a little bit better positioned right now. That being said, not really a major change. Mew's well positioned because Tina's doing well in this format, and Rapid Strike Urshifu is doing well in this format. And if you're able to beat Lost Zone Box, or if you're able to beat Gardevoir with this deck, you should have a pretty good chance at just seeing success. So Mew's not a bad choice at all. Mew kind of falls within like the neutrally good things, where it's just like maybe it's neutrally great nowadays, where it's like Mew is just a solid choice at any given point. Just watch out for counters of Spiritomb and Drapion and Charizard. Like Charizard's the big new one, so if there's a lot of Charizard hype, we just don't know how good Mew is until we know the format. So stay tuned for this one. This one might be a little too low, might be a little too high, but I think it's properly placed right now. Hopping into our number 3 choice, we actually have a tie here. So we're going to go over Lost Zone Turbo in general, and you either want to play the straight up version or the version that plays Kyogre. So we'll start off with Kyogre right now. Kyogre can just like knock out things like Lugia on your opponent's bench and gives you an alternate win con. Just use Aqua Storm to wipe off your opponent's bench. So you can kind of play towards that. Otherwise, this deck plays out the exact same as Turbo and is like 55 of the same cards. So that being said, it's really not that different than just playing the regular build that goes Dragonite, and I think it cuts the Kyogre for like a Drapion. But in general, if you're playing one of these two lists that I'm now going to show, you can see a lot of it's very similar. Cutting one fish for another fish, even though I don't think Kyogre is a fish. It's a Pokemon. They're both Pokemon, right? It's really like two peas in the same pod. However you decide to have a better mirror match. Are you trying to have a better Lugia match? Are you trying to have insert whatever better match you're trying to play for? Right now, I think that this is, again, a super solid build across for either list. So look into both of those. Both are going to be in the pinned comment below. And I don't usually do like a bonus choice. I put it, but these ones are similar enough where like, I mean, if I place one and not the other, it's bad. And if I just put Lost Kyogre as like a spot or two below Turbo or anything else like that, it's just bad across the board. So this is what we got going on. 2-for-1 special, getting some extra lists, but I'd probably build both online and both in real life because I think both are fantastic. Here we have it, our number 2 deck. We have Gardevoir EX, and this is kind of like a take on towards, I think, the only thing that I've changed is like the routes count around. I think that the routes count is slightly better playing the side shot routes, especially for mirror, and I think it's better to go with one research, one worker right now. Do I think that there's other like builds of Gardevoir that could see success? Yeah. I think that Sky Steel Stone could be pretty cool in this deck. Just not in this current build, so I'd have to cook a little bit more, and I don't necessarily want to disrespect Tord on his Worlds Finals either. I think that his list that he has is just a super solid stock list, and maybe this is like standard straight up Guardy, and there's also a teched up version of Guardy, and maybe those two decks can coincide and it's more of a metagame call in the day. I'm definitely a fan of building more decks and more variations of decks. So right now, this is the one that I want to go with because I think it's tried and more than true and more than successful. So Gardevoir is just a solid deck. And I urge you to give it a try if you haven't already. If not, we'll have our number 1. Put your best comments, put your best guesses in the comments below. We'll see what it turns into. Here we have it, our number 1 deck, Lost Tina. This is a deck that I've played. I mean, I've played this almost exclusively at League Cups and League Challenges. Currently number 3 in North America at the time of the recording of this video. So I've seen a lot of success with this deck, and I think a lot of other players have seen a lot of success with this deck. Both me and Tyler from Shuffle are both within the top 10 North America playing the exact same list. And basically the biggest change that we had from our previous list from this past weekend was we cut our Halucha, which is pretty good to get behind on those Lost Turbo, Lost Kyogre decks, for Spiritomb, because we do anticipate a lot of Mew coming up. You don't necessarily need it because the deck does have a close to a 50-50 with Mew, maybe a 45-55. Tina's the king of being a 50-50 deck across the board. You're not having very many gray matchups, and it might seem like a brick fest, but when this deck sets up, and also you also have Abyss Seeking as a secondary chance to set up, you have a really good chance to just steal some games here. And I mean, I think this list is close to perfect. If Pittsburgh was tomorrow, this is probably what I'd be playing. Maybe I'd change 1 card or 2 cards or something like that, but like this is a 58 card core list at the very least. So if you are looking for Tina, definitely go this. Leave the waters at home. This deck is sick and probably going to be the most played deck at Pittsburgh Regionals. So stay tuned for all that. Let me close things out. that's what we got going on for our top 10 decks. Hopefully you enjoyed learning a little bit more about it, whether you're going to any of the upcoming regional special events, League Cups, League Challenges, online events, local play, anything like that. Hopefully this list helps you out a little bit there. I mean, it is my own personal list, so if there's anything you find different about it, let me know in the comments below. Feel free to give some feedback with a thumbs up. Really helps boost the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Stay tuned for lots of great content from all of the members from the Shuffle Squad, whether it's here or check out our Patreon, which is patreon.com/TSSWin. We have a lot of exclusive content and access to our deck list before these videos are made usually, so stay tuned for all that. Again, shout out to Tyler, who's on Shuffle Squad, for helping me out create this list pretty much every single week. We're cooking at these late night calls. It's like 2:30, so I think I gotta catch some sleep. Again, check out the description for all of those great affiliate discounts and all that great stuff. Peace out and have a great one. Shout out to Bucky's Tea from Richmond, Kentucky. Let's go. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.